And welcome, everybody, to Power Players on We Are the People. I am your host, Tom Hasleton, and today we have an amazing guest. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But what I want you to do is follow wearethepeople.org. I want you to go to our media channels, our website, and follow us there. Be sure to click and subscribe and make sure that you're getting your daily news and content. And guys, this thing is going to start blowing up. We're going to start competing with all the likes of KSL, Deseret News, those types of things for all your daily news. And guys, we're going to actually bring you some real stuff here. So today's show is actually sponsored by Osmond Construction. And I'm excited about this because this guy here is a mover shaker, the owner of this company. And our guest today is a guy by the name of Jared Osmond. Hello, Jared. How are you doing, buddy?
Hi, Tom. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
And, this guy's a natural. It's almost like I'm talking, or talking with a radio host over here. And I apologize for my voice. I've been sick the last few days, and so I'm just coming out of this, and so it's a little raspy today. But listen, I'm going to introduce Jared a little bit just from what I know. And, Jared is a friend of mine, first and foremost. And he is somebody that, yes, has the last name Osmond, but has really differentiated himself from the rest of the clan in what he's done. And we're going to go through his story today and what makes Jared a power player. And so I'm excited. And I think it's going to be a little spicy today. What do you think?
I like spicy. Spicy works.
Fantastic.
It will be.
So Jared, Jared and I have known each other for some years now, and he's had a great path. And, what's interesting about this show is that everybody has had some sort of path that has led them to, all of their information has been the sum total of where they are today and what makes them successful and why their story matters to especially the youth out there that are paying attention. I want you guys paying attention to this today. So Jared is a builder developer. He's done homes, and, I'm in the home building space, and so I've got some things in common there, and maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment because this guy here was smart enough to get out of the homes and go into more of a retail space, and so he's got some retail plazas that he's put up around a lot of Utah County, Salt Lake County, and some other things, and so very successful in that, right? And I really like his story of how he came about and what he's done and built for the product name and the type of product that he puts out there. He's a family man. He's got 4 children, and so I'll have him go into that as well. But he's also put out an album. He put out an album, a record, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that he gave up for charity. Didn't take a single dime off of this. And so, yes, he can sing, but he chose to go a different way and to start building. So with that said, I'm going to let Jared finish the introduction there and welcome us. And Jared, I want you to tell the viewers just the very beginnings. I want you to start out who your father is, your relationship to the Osmonds, and what makes you tick.
Well, first of all, Tom, it's a pleasure to be here. I have watched We the People podcast. I love it. I have some strong political beliefs and some really strong beliefs in life, and I am grateful to be here. So thanks for having me, first and foremost. I think it's significant to talk about why I would want to be on a podcast. And anytime I speak, I do speak publicly. I teach real estate seminars all over the world. And I do what I can to try to help people understand, I guess, my paradigm in life. And so one of the things that I'm acutely aware of is that everybody struggles, okay? Especially the youth. And so I love that that's the focus of this podcast, is to lift people up, especially the youth that are going through hard things. I know what it's like to go through really hard things. I came from a family of that are synonymous with Utah and synonymous with the Mormon faith, the LDS faith, the Osmond family. And I love them dearly. So I am one of the oldest grandkids in the Osmond clan. So my grandparents, George and Olive, had 9 children. Their oldest son is Verl. That's my dad. Donnie and Marie are my uncle and aunt, if you know who the Osmonds are. So, and the only reason that's significant, I mean, I don't lean on that. In fact, I used to deny that I was an Osmond. Mm-hmm. I didn't like it in high school. I didn't really appreciate everybody telling me their stories about the Osmonds, and because I didn't care. But now I do, because I've watched them. They're really, really good people. And I'm grateful, not that I have been perfect in my life, and I'm certainly not an example of perfection. I don't think any of us are, but I am grateful for the legacy that brought me here. And I'm happy to go I'm a talker, Tom. You just shut me up anytime.
You're doing good so far.
Right.
Keep rolling.
So, growing up in Utah was rough as it was, to be honest. I mean, it's just, Utah can be rough. I felt a lot of the religious influence on me from the church, the LDS church. I felt a little bit, and we can talk about that later, I felt it was a little bit of a shame-based feeling that I had growing up. And I still love the church. We can talk about that as well. But I did, as an Osmond, I felt like I was under extreme scrutiny. And I was. And I'm okay with that now because, people associate on them immediately. They think, well, I've got a leg up, or somehow I came from money, which is not the truth. My father, because he was deaf, and because the Osmonds had some really terrible things happen to them in their careers, ended up with nothing. They lost all of their money that they worked so hard for. So at an early age, I started working at age 11. We moved. In fact, my parents never owned a house until my brother and I bought them one.
Jared, where do you fit? How many kids in your family, and where do you fit? And that's why
that's good. Thanks for you got to kind of focus me, because I could be all over the place with this. It's a great story, but so one more time, where do I fit?
Where do you fit in the family?
So my family, my father, the oldest of the Osmond brothers, had 7 kids. I'm the second oldest of 7, and it's amazing. I love the family dynamic. Growing up Osmond, growing up in Utah was tough, but I learned how to work, and I learned how to take care of my siblings, along with my older brother Aaron, at an early age.
Now, Aaron is he a senator in Utah?
He was. Aaron was a senator in Utah.
Okay.
He's politically minded.
So you guys, you still have some studs that are coming out of that Osmond family, it sounds like.
He's a good man.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of good people in the family.
And you're fairly close with him still.
Absolutely, yeah.
So at 11, you started working. What were you doing to help provide, and why?
Well, my father dealt with such heavy depression. He didn't really have a heart. He didn't really work on a steady basis. He was so depressed because of so many things. We didn't really recognize it. That was a stigma back in the day too, back in the 80s and 90s, that was not recognized as, it's much more normalized now. People can see mental health issues, and there's so many people, all of us. In fact, I live by a code. I can talk about that later, but on how to get out of depression and anxiety. I've learned some cool techniques, but I watched my dad really kind of crumble, and I love him so dearly. He's the kindest man, and he taught me how to be that guy. I'm a loving and kind person, and I lead with that. I'm never embarrassed about that. But I had to work, and so I got out I remember my mom came to me and my brother and said, if you guys don't want to move this month, we're going to need rent. So go into the neighborhood, and whatever anybody will pay you to do, go do it. And I started paying rent and paying for food, and that led into paying for some of the Christmas presents and birthday presents. And my brother and I took this role as providers alongside of my mom for quite a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
So again, you've learned how to work because you were forced. You didn't have a choice at that point, and you could have laid down, but it would have made it worse for the family. So you helped provide for your mother and your siblings.
Yeah. Well, no one's there to save you. I mean, your life is yours. You get to decide. And so when you make hard decisions, you can decide. I mean, I tell people all the time, you can decide what you do. You've got the same 24 hours. You can go and focus on your hobbies, or you can focus on taking care of the financial aspects of your life, taking care of your body, all these things that are critical. I see this trend with so many of the youth today where they just check out, or they want to be TikTok famous, or whatever it is. I did not have the choice. I couldn't just stay home and make TikToks all day long. I had to go work. So I got out and worked.
So let me take you from there to you served an LDS mission.
I did.
And so that was in Minnesota, if I remember right. And
Yes.
You were Laos speaking?
Laotian and Thai.
Okay.
Yep, in Minnesota.
Quite the mix.
It was
Okay.
something.
So warm weather speaking in a cold weather climate.
Very much
right? So that helped. I know you've got a lot of experiences from that, and I think that's a great thing. It helped shape you. Yeah. After you return home from your mission, tell me, lead me into a couple things. One, where you had figured out what career path you were going to do.
Yeah.
And two, I want you to talk about your marriage and your children, and you can talk as briefly or as long as you feel that is necessary about how that has gone.
Well, that could be a very long subject, but I'll go there. So came off my mission. Everybody told me, and I watched my father, my dad, again, and I love him, but he was so frustrated and had such a bad track record with making money, and it was really very disappointing for the family. It was hard to move. Every 6 months we moved because we would rent until we got kicked out, and then we'd go to another place, and then we'd move and move and move. So I remember coming home from my mission, and I was a very good missionary. I worked really, really hard, obeyed all the rules, did all the things, learned a hard language, and very successful, baptized 81 people, all the things. Anyway, but I remember getting back from my mission and saying, whatever I do, I just can't do what my dad did. And I wanted, and it was good. I mean, I still, again, no shade on him. I love the guy. He taught me how to be a real and kind and loving man. And I honor him. I honor my father and my mother. I'm so grateful for the upbringing that I had. As hard as it was financially, it was amazing. Just a sweet guy. Anyway, so I came home. I said, well, I'll do anything but what my dad did. And so I decided to go to college. And I kind of joke around that college was the best 2 months of my life. That's not exactly true. I'm a semester away from graduating. And during that last semester, I was working for a company called Word Perfect, a Utah-based company back then, 1993, never forget it. And I showed up at work, and there were just cop cars everywhere. And they had laid off the entire company, essentially. And I was part of that layoff. And it affected me when I realized that there's no such thing as job security. Mm-hmm. And I don't care. And I think that college, to be honest with you, and this is controversial, but I think it is a pipe dream to say you're going to go to college and get rich. That's a mistake. I mean, you're going to go to college, you're going to sit at somebody else's desk after you graduate, and you're going to build their dreams, unless you have an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I believe strongly that if you don't have a direction, don't run. Yeah. And so I became an entrepreneur, and I started off, I tried a few little entrepreneurial businesses, and then the light came on with real estate. And my projects were very small, and they've grown and grown and grown and grown into a multi-million-dollar business for me. And I couldn't be more grateful. People ask me all the time, why didn't you go back to college? I'm like, why should I? Give me a good reason. I don't know. So,
I agree. I'm also a college dropout.
Go team.
And I was a little bit, I was close to graduating, and I just said, you know what, I'm making more than my professor currently running my business, and he doesn't know how to run a business. He knows how to teach. So
right.
I'm out. Right.
There you go.
So, okay. So then you started your real estate empire. And currently doing some retail developments, which is good because you're taking the community, you're taking raw pieces of ground, and you're turning these things into areas where people can make money.
Yeah,
they can buy goods, they can shop, they can eat, they can have a small business there, whatever it may be. And so you're helping improve the community, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
So always very appreciative of entrepreneurs and their spirit to move things along, because without small businesses in the United States, this country would not be what it is today. So he's an integral part. Talk to me about your marriage. Yeah. and where we're going with that. And again, I'll kind of let you take the lead on what you want to talk about, but sure. Controversial or not, but it's I think it's good because, listen, I just told Jared today. I met with a friend. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but I just met with a friend today before this, had a lunch, and something that was shocking to me. And he and his wife are having issues, and I said, "There's no way. You guys are perfect. You're the perfect couple, right? There's no way that these two are having these issues." And I said, "I had no idea." He said, "I haven't told anybody." And this friend of mine, has been holding it in for a long time. But today he confided in me that they're having some issues, and it's nothing that it's just some irreconcilable differences, And so when you get married, you think, hey, especially in the Mormon church, we're taught you get married, you don't get divorced, and this is my soulmate. And so I want you to start there and start with year one and go into 25.
Yeah, 25 years together, 27 years married, but 25 years together. And I'll just preface this for the sake of my children, whom I love so dearly. I mean, I have 4 beautiful, beautiful kids, and essentially all adults. Divorce has been the hardest thing that I've ever gone through, and it's resulted in my youngest daughter not speaking to me, and I'll just say that, but I haven't spoken to her in nearly 3.5 years, and it's been the hardest thing I've ever experienced because I love my children so intensely. When I got married, I married a beautiful, wonderful person, and in fact, I still love her for who she is, as hard as this divorce has been, and our divorce is still going. Officially divorced, it's been bifurcated, but we're still going to year 4 because of all the assets and things we're separating. It's very, very difficult. So I relate to people that have been through it. We are the majority. Apparently, the majority of marriages end. And ours came to an end. And, that end came because of my questions on the LDS church. And not that I was perfect, but I came out of being a temple worker. I'm the kind of guy that when I really want to know something, I immerse myself, whether it's real estate or whatever I'm in. And I was a temple worker for 2 years in the LDS church, and then every Thursday I'd show up, wear a white suit, and just wanted to immerse myself and learn everything that I could. And my questions on the church just got worse. Now, I'm not here to bash the church. I'm just saying I had questions. Unfortunately, those questions were not met with much love and consideration from my ex-wife. And that's the only bad thing I'll say. I'll be honest, she's an amazing woman. She is a strong entrepreneur. She is a great mother. Heather Osmond is a very strong woman. My greatest regret, I would say, Tom, to be honest with you, is that had I known how difficult this path would have been on me and my children, I think I would have done more in the process of trying to save it. For all the money we've spent on lawyers and everything else, I would have taken that money and gone on a couples retreat. I would have done anything I could to find common ground, because the friendship I thought was strong enough, but that whittled away pretty quickly. And when you start to push your person away from you, and we lived in different rooms and different things for years, it's amazing. The distance gets bigger and deeper, and it's so difficult to repair. And then, things happen. I'll just leave it at that. It's not really worth getting into, but I do think, and I don't want to disparage her, and I certainly don't want to create any drama for my kids, but it's tough. It's been a tough thing.
Jared, from an outsider's perspective, just knowing you and seeing the type of father you are, I think that's one of your greatest strengths.
Thank you.
This guy right here really loves his kids. Even the daughter that doesn't speak with him, he's told me many times that he absolutely adores her, and cannot wait for the day that she's speaking again with him and understands him. And I think it's important for those that, especially those kids and those people that are going through divorces or have gone through divorce, to understand that there's greatness and there's light on the other side of this. And Jared is one of those I know that seeks that and doesn't. He's not a vitriolic person that's seeking revenge and all this. People just want to move on with life. And so okay, so after the divorce, just briefly touch on, and again, we're not. This isn't a bash on session. This is a live look into who Jared Osmond is, what makes him important and why he makes him tick. And I'm just going to say one thing. He and I think a lot alike on a lot of different subjects. We align very, very well. One of those subjects is, a lot of the church. And again, I'm a lover of the Mormon church. I love what it's taught me. I love the upbringing. I love, a lot of things about it. What I don't love is the culture. I do not love the culture that it's brought to Utah, the shame culture. Yep. At what age can you become yourself? Is that 40? Is it 50? Is it never, to actually become somebody that you want to be? And I want you to just talk about that a little bit. There's there's zero bash.
No, zero bash.
But it's what real life for Jared Osmond has become.
I was really lost as a kid. I was very unconfident in high school, surprisingly. I had people tell me all the time, "Wow, you're handsome, you got all this stuff," but to be honest with you, I didn't really like myself. And I felt a lot of shame from the church. I won't get into that, but I felt that. And as I grew through the process of being married in the church, sealed in the temple, that's a marriage in the LDS church, and then going through this process of leaving, and it was never really my intent to leave the church, but it happened. I stepped outside of the church, and I've just lived I've tried to live authentically, and that has come with some pain. But it's been worth it. And I think so when you really, truly want to live authentically, then you got to stop lying to yourself. And you've got to be honest, even though it alienates. People will leave you. One of the things I've always thought, and it's a saying that I keep with me, is that, in life, you have the opportunity to shine if you'd like to. And when you shine, you inevitably cast a shadow. And I've done that. And people don't necessarily like that. If all of a sudden you were a bright shining star for them and all of a sudden they're in your shadow, it alienates you. And I've lost friends and family members that won't speak to me and that kind of thing. And I always try to lead with love and forgiveness. I am far from perfect. I'm sure my ex-wife could point out all my weak spots, and she's probably right. But the reality is I believe strongly that to truly find yourself, you have to be honest with yourself. And then understand who you are. I mean, I can tell you who I believe I am. I believe that I am God's son. I still have this very strong faith in God. I have a very strong faith in a Savior, in Jesus Christ. So, and everything else I'm just putting a pin in. And I have to appreciate the fact that I believe life is about experiences. And so we go through all these hard things, and yet it's an experience. And if you can take it like that, and you take it back to God with gratitude, and you live in gratitude, and you hear that all the time, but it's actually really true. And you're just speaking the words of gratitude, it actually programs your brain, and it programs your heart so that you're a better person when you interact with other people, and you're a better person with yourself. I used to be very, very hard on myself. I'm not so much anymore. I'm okay. I'm okay being the authentic version of me. If you don't like me, I don't care. Bless off. Couldn't care less. But the reality is I like me. And I like that I'm a lover of people. And there is a great strength in that. When you lead your life and you meet somebody and you lift them up, and that's your goal, then you're going to be a productive, happy person, and you'll find your path. And again, I've said it before, if you don't have a direction, don't run, but certainly don't stop walking. Motion creates emotion. You need to be in it.
I agree wholeheartedly with the ability to help others. I mean, why are we here? Especially with things that we have been given from God. Why are we here if we can't help others? Yeah. And what good does it do if we take all these blessings, all this money, all this time and effort and everything else, and we hold it? You have to take that bushel off and shine.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And that's why all these people go through, I mean, everyone's got something. Everyone goes through a hard time in their life. But you can either become the victim or you can become the champion based off of circumstance.
Yeah.
And, to me, Jared's one of those that has become the champion based off of circumstance, and he's not letting life get him. And that's what I want the people to understand, is that he's taking this and these bad eggs by choice of his, by choice of God, by whatever happens,
some
right?
Mistakes.
However it's doled out, right?
Sure.
And he's saying, okay, I can make lemons from lemonade, or lemonade from lemons, and understand that that's actually going to help grow this. So,
yeah.
So I understand that you're also a very charitable man with your time, with money, those types of things, and maybe speak a little about that for a minute.
Well, I have some passions when it comes to that, and you're 100% right, by the way. I mean, it truly is about taking where you are in life and seeing yourself in the correct light. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems with the youth today is they don't know how to see themselves. I think we're all so worried about social media. We're also worried about how we look, that it takes away so much of your time and effort and really your true happiness. If you would just shut down some of those things, focus on yourself, take care of your body, take care of your life, be kind to other people, be kind to yourself especially. Whatever you give, you get back. And so one of the things when it comes to charitable giving, I always try to find causes that are dear to me. Several years ago, I found a little boy in one of my apartment buildings that I had at the time that was abused. And this little 2-year-old, my son was 2 at the time. I'll never forget it. In fact, I was coming back from the gym, and on the way back from the gym at 11 o'clock at night, and I would go to the gym because I had some issues at home. It was just easier for me to be away. Anyway, I was dealing with my own pain, but I went to the gym and I'd work through my stuff. And on the way home at 11 o'clock at night, I had this overwhelming spiritual feeling. I'm going to call it exactly what it is, to stop by this apartment building. And I was self-managing this one at the time. And the mother of this child, who was, I think, 21, and clearly a drug addict, I'll never forget it. She had this cute little 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old boy, and my son was the same age. And so I remember that story, and I showed up at 11 o'clock at night. I walked upstairs, and I went to go knock on the door, and I saw the door had been rekeyed. And I thought, well, that's really odd. And then I heard a sound that I can't get it out of my head. And it's the sound of this little tiny child whimpering. And in fact, it's so emotional for me, it's hard for me to talk about it. And so I knocked, and I knocked again, and knocked a little louder, and all the neighbors came out of this apartment building. And they're like, yeah, we've heard this for a few days now. Now, I'll note this, I evicted every one of those losers for listening to a child cry and did nothing about it. So I didn't know what to do, so I knocked really hard. I could tell nobody was there, and I broke down the door. And I walked in, and what I saw changed me forever. The house was tossed. Their fridge was tipped over, broken glass and jars everywhere, and this little boy was sitting in the corner so badly abused. I'm trying not to be emotional. Anyway, so he was black and blue. His eyes were swollen shut, and dang it. Anyway, so I'll compose myself. I cleaned this poor little kid up, called the police, and I felt, and he was sitting, he was eating cat food for the last 3 days. They assessed that he was there for 3 days in that state. He had hair missing out of the top of his head.
Neither mother or father was there.
Nobody was there. And so cleaned him up, and I just felt this unbelievable rage and hate for this woman that would do that to her son. And all I wanted to do was go snap her neck and throw her away. And then I realized something. When she finally came back into the picture and was arrested, she too was beat up. And her boyfriend, a drug addict as well, beat her and her son up and then dragged her out with him. And so my compassion, it's the thing, you got to be very, very careful. I learned a great lesson there, not to judge. You don't know.
Wow.
So I decided to write an album, which I did. It's on iTunes, called Innocent Ones. And I wrote songs. I mean, I'm not the greatest singer. I sing in the shower now. It's great reverb. But, as an Osmond, you got to sing or get out. And so I did. And I put this together, and I raised money for a local charity that I still am very passionate about. And it's amazing. They have a crisis nursery, and it's the Family Support and Treatment Center in Orem, Utah. Anyway, so they do a lot of good. There's a lot of good charities. But the idea of protecting kids, bringing light to abuse, statistics have shown that they believe. I mean, I was at a Mormon counselors convention where I got to MC and sing a little bit, and then some of the 12 apostles of the church were there, and they got up and said, you know what, abuse is everywhere, and so much so they believe 1 out of every 3 kids have been abused, and I think the statistics prove that. But anyway, so that's what I did, and I gave the album away and raised money through charitable donations, and I still to this day have a great love for that fight, and I am definitely willing to fight to protect the innocent, and that's something I am always willing to do, and I have no problem with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a very touching story. Yeah, I've heard it from you, but I haven't heard it that much. Yeah. And I could feel the emotion. I'll tell you what, guys, if we're not protecting our children today, who? If not me, who? If not
who's going to protect them?
If not now, when?
Yeah.
And that's a great story, because the neighbors have been listening to that for how long?
Yeah, a few days. Yeah, I evicted them all. I did learn something interesting from going to that counselors convention. Never let your children have a sleepover, even with family. Yeah. 90% of sexual abuse happens at sleepovers. So just don't do it. We spend all this money for alarms on our house and to do all this good, and yet we'll drop our kids off in their pajamas and say, good luck. Yeah. See you tomorrow. It's stupid.
Well, I appreciate the protective side of you, and I've seen that as a friend. In standing up for different things. And
I'm good for the fight.
We always just say, if something's happening, we say, whose car are we taking?
That's right. We'll roll. I don't even know how to ask questions. Let's just do it.
Well, thank you for that. I want to get into a couple things, maybe some social things.
Yeah, do it.
And there's a show that premieres called Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and you can see Jared is a very ugly housewife.
I'm an ugly housewife.
Okay, but no, he's going to be on the show. For good or bad, Jared's on the show. And so there's going to be some controversy, I think. But, I'll let you tell it a little bit. You're one of the gals that's on there is a friend of ours as well. And I want you to
sweetheart.
I want you to tell about spend a couple minutes on that.
I'd love to.
The people.
Well, it's controversial when your ex-wife sends you a text and says she's got her entire ward ready for a watch party. So it's coming up, airs on the 18th, the very first episode. And so I have a dear friend and a girl that I've dated for on and off for a year now, and truly one of the sweetest, kindest people I've ever met, Brittany Bateman. She interviewed for the show and dragged me into her interview, her Zoom interview with Bravo Network, and it was fun and funny. We played off each other. I'm kind of a talker, as you've noticed, and it was really fun. We had a great time bouncing things, and they really loved that dynamic. And so Brittany stands on her own in her own right. She's amazing, I think. And I'm not sure she's as controversial as the show wants her to be. She's just the kindest human. I can't believe that she's on that show, but that's my assessment. But I do get dragged on the show. Brittany breaks up with me. I'm not under contract to say anything less than that on the show. And then we get back together on and off and on and off. It's just our life. It has been. And so that was interesting. And I do look like a player.
Isn't that the
Maybe
whole
I am.
purpose of the show?
Yeah, I mean,
Is to cause drama, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, there's a lot of drama.
Even if there's a bit of truth, they'll spin it and put 10 times on it for drama.
You know, I've got a great deal of respect for the director of that show. Her name is Lori, great gal, and I think that she had my best interest in mind. But that show is about creating drama, and it certainly does not leave you without it. So there's plenty of it. So enjoy. To my detriment, I'm sure.
Well, I hope that the viewers in Salt Lake here will at least have a good time watching that.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
I've actually never seen an episode. I've talked to my wife about them, but apparently I'm going to have to watch this season because my friend Jared Osmond is on the show.
I don't think I'll be watching, but I am on it a bit.
You're going to hear about it regardless.
I'm sure I will. Oh, well.
Well,
whatever.
as we sit here, the last thing I want to talk about, which I think is super important, is the political scene, the ability to be awake in life, to understand how the world works and functions, how money is made, how it controls people, and really just being awake in today's society of so much confusion and propaganda. And Jared, I know, is very politically driven, awake, and understands how the machine works. We've got this political machine, guys, that drives both left and right, two feathers of the same bird. And again, I'm one that says, look, left and right, you're both the same. There's so many people that are just corrupt and want nothing more than money, than power. And I think that's important, again, to have the youngsters in today's world being awake and, again, being able to follow someone that actually they look up to. And, again, that's why I've got Jared here, is because I want him to tell a little bit of what he believes and why he believes it and why it's important to the viewers.
Well, you know, there was a time in my life I wanted nothing to do with politics, but now I can't be silent. I can't. It's just ridiculous what's going on. I agree wholeheartedly that the left and the right are part of the problem. Our biggest problem, quite honestly, is the federal government. The federal government has gone out of control. And I, quite honestly, with all my heart, with just passionate, if you can't feel it, believe that there is no saving the federal government. This is also why I believe the Constitution was an inspired document and still is, and should not be rewritten. We should follow it. I believe, and I'm very moderate actually in a lot of my social beliefs. I believe we need to take care of the poor. I believe we do owe that to those that are struggling. I believe that there is a true mandate spiritually to lift people up, people that are struggling, that can't afford health insurance, that would like to but can't. I actually do believe in that. There's a lot of things you'll find, although I'm fiscally conservative, and I do lean more right, obviously, because I think the Democrats have become something they weren't before. I think I've seen this with many talk show hosts that were self-proclaimed Democrats, that all of a sudden the party no longer is the party they recognize. I don't recognize them. And I'll tell you what, it's become so damn woke that it makes me sick to my stomach. And when you come in and say, and again, I'm going to tell you, there are not more than two genders, people, okay? Stop. And one of the problems I have is they want to convince you, and I think this is part of the problem with our youth too. They're making men weak. I think specifically men. They've targeted men. They want men to be soft and not masculine. I thrive on masculinity. If you're going to call it toxic, I really don't care. I think being a man comes with three things. You need to learn to provide, protect, and promote the one you love and the ones you love. And you have to stand for something. And one of the things I struggle with when it comes to the politics of this great country, to me, I still believe America is the greatest country in the world. It's been able to foster these amazing things like capitalism. Hate it if you like, but that's how poverty is taken down. We are able to come. I came out of nothing. I had no money. You could say and don't tell me it's because of my skin color. I had to work my butt off to figure things out and to go. And I've got great friends that are black that are multimillionaires. So we're going to talk about the race card. I have some of my best friends are black and Asian. I served an Asian mission. I've got a great love for all ethnicities. But getting back to the point on politics, I don't think that the federal government is savable. And I say that because even with Trump or anybody else that is in office, right or left, it's not those people that control it. And there are so many controlling factors. We have created these entities with three letters: the BLM, the FBI, the
CIA.
EPA, CIA, that have unlimited power. You take Utah for an example. How far do you want me to go on this? Because I can keep going.
Well, I want you to talk about, and I agree with you. The federal government is gone. But we can save Utah, and that's what this show's about.
That is my point. So my point is right now, you even look at Utah, most people don't know this, but 67% of our land has been taken with no remuneration. There's nothing coming back to us from the federal government. They seize our land. Now, why would they do that? Just to have some nice, natural, wonderful national parks for us to walk through and collect rocks, which you can't even do? Nope, that's not why it is. They shut down everything. The Constitution allows the states the provision to be sovereign. If you really, really want to understand where we're at, they don't want you to have the control. Every state should have the control of its land and its resources. Now, I believe that there is an importance to take care of those resources. I don't think that they care. I think the federal government wants to shut that down. They've shut down our coal, our fracking, our drilling, everything we need to do that we could do to sustain Utah, and they have shut it down, and then we go buy energy from our adversaries, energy from our enemies, China, etc. And it's not clean coal, it's not clean energy, but we buy it from them. It's all about control. And so my point is why is the federal government seizing our land? Why do we get only 9% of our budget from the federal? We don't really need them. I'm really blown away, to be honest. And if we go back to what the Constitution says, it actually points out federalism, and I would encourage everybody to look that up. So federalism is not about having states' rights. Federalism is about state sovereignty, and that's the key. Look, if you want to live in California and you want to go and you love being a blue state and you love all the policies of Newsom, well, I'm telling you, California's going to crack off and fall into the sea anyway. So
if you're okay with a sex change,
you're okay. If you want to let your children go through that, well, you're an idiot. If you want, though, I think so highly of this beautiful state we live in. I'm not a fan of Governor Cox. I think that he's just walking in step with all of the woke policies, leads with his stupid pronouns. You know what? And again, if you're gay, I don't care. I love you anyway. I've got so many friends that are gay. Don't go there with me. But I will tell you what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about the state making its own policies. We need to protect our people. We should be able to, we could be better than any other state. We could be an island if we wanted to be. Politically, if we could get the federal government out of our land, out of our schools, and we take care of what Utahns truly want, and it could be a mix between the left and the right, that makes a lot of sense to me.
True sovereignty.
Sovereignty, true sovereignty. The federal government has the mandate to raise an army and to tax. Anything beyond that, from my understanding, is overreach. And I'm okay paying my taxes, even though I think it's too much. But I think Utah, we wouldn't even have an income tax in Utah if we were able to bring our clean coal factories back online, or to produce energy to take care of us and our neighbors. We would all get a dividend, just like Alaska and some of the other states.
One of the biggest reasons that Utah has so much federal land, obviously, we've had weak leadership.
Oh, my gosh.
We have allowed this. Again, we're getting exactly what we voted for.
Yeah, well,
and that stems a lot for culture. We think people are nice, and so our weak leadership has given this land away to the federal government. And the reason the federal government wants it is because then they have control. They have control of resources, and Utah has enough resources, oil, minerals, those types of things. Number one, to be self-sustaining, and number two, to run the whole entire country. We have more in Utah, in the Uinta Basin, in Duchesne area, than at least from reports that I've seen, than the Middle East does.
And what shuts us down? What shuts us down from drilling, fracking? What shuts us down from building a
permitting
nuclear? Well, and why? And what entity shuts that down?
Well, that's the EPA.
Exactly. And they are governed by nobody.
Yep.
They have unbelievable power. And the overreach of power is the problem. Again, I don't think you can solve the federal government problem, but you certainly can solve the Utah problem.
So with all this, it sounds like you're pretty well versed. When are you going to run for office?
You know what? If things don't change, I might. I'm so disgusted. I'm actually disgusted. And I think there's a lot of problems with Utah's government. I think Governor Cox, unfortunately, is doing a poor job. There's so much controversy around him. I think our policies, some of our leaders that pretend like they care, they don't. They're just sustaining their own wealth and their own jobs. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not there yet. But I'll be honest, what needs to happen is we need to see a very fundamental change with with the culture here, we need to all wake up. Things do need to change in Utah. We need to change a lot of things. Even the influence of the LDS Church on politics. I mean, our drinking laws here are ridiculous. Our laws that govern so many things that the federal government takes away from us, and somehow we just give it away and we don't care. I mean, why is nobody making a big stink about that? Why are we not, from our legislative branch here in Utah, why are we not suing the federal government to get our rights back? Why are we not making these changes to protect our children, to award, these wonderful possibilities, and our civil servants too? Why are we not paying our teachers because they are civil servants? Why are we not paying them a living wage or something that is really rewarding? We would get a higher class of teachers. We would get a higher class of cops, firefighters, first responders. Maybe we should build a few less roads and take care of our civil servants. I'm a little bugged.
What you're talking about there is common sense.
It's common sense to us.
And that is actually the problem. There is no common sense in today's federal government, and a lot of our state government now is very corrupt.
Oh, yeah.
So, with that said, that's why we need leadership. That's why we need people that are out there. That's why we need entrepreneurs. We need people with influence, power, money on a local level to step up, speak out, invest in good people, for whether it's politics, and just honestly running a good household and running, good communities. Yeah. And when you have somebody that steps up to the plate, others follow. They look at this and they go, hey, look, that guy struggled too. And that's what I'm going through currently. And I know I can get out of this. If he did it, I can do it. Yeah. And if he thinks a certain way, why can't I think that way? There must be some relevance to that. There's some common sense and some facts that are built into that. And I think that's one of the most powerful takeaways that I have from our talk today, from our discussion today, is that you can and will triumph over anything that you want to be. You want a positive spin in your life, and you want to triumph over that, great. If you want to be a victim, listen to what the internet has to say, sit on your couch and eat some potato chips, and don't go to the gym. He mentioned earlier that he takes out his demons at the gym. So do I. I go to the gym, and it's good because what you're doing currently is you're physically working harder than whatever it was mentally, emotionally, and spiritually you may have been going through at the time, and you forget about everything, and you go, you know what, I can do this, and then you get time to kind of go into your wilderness and work through it.
Yeah, it's very true. And
that's why it's important to keep a sound mind, a sound body, I mean, nutrition down to what you're reading, your intake, and whatever else.
Oh yeah.
These things all have to be there, and so much of the youth today are literally wasting their lives playing video games, social media. They're not paying attention. They're uninformed voters.
Yeah.
And that's why people like Jared Osmond matter. So listen, I want you to just leave some final thoughts for the viewers here, and let's see something that'll resonate for a long time.
Sure. And I think I can supply that. One of the things that I have really leaned on as I've gone through the hard things in my divorce and in life in general. And I've got a lot of stuff figured out in life. I mean, I've done well financially and everything on that front, but that's not everything. I came up with this little formula that really works for me, and I call it my SPF. And it means two different things. So I believe there are 3 crystal balls in life that you have to keep in the air. It's a juggling act. Everything that we do is a choice. We got to make choices, and not making a choice is a choice. So if you sit around do nothing, and there's a lot of problems with that. But the first part of the SPF is, like you said, is your speech. S stands for speech. How you speak to other people, how you speak about yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say you can't, you won't. End of story. And so you have to be very careful. Your speech guides everything. The P is your physiology, speech physiology. The P, or the physiology, is the study of the human form, the body. And so for me, motion creates emotion. I didn't get this, by the way, on my own. I have several mentors that I just created this little acronym, but SPF reminds me of protection. So getting into motion, if you're sad, if you're struggling, if you're going through hard things, move. Don't sit on the couch. Don't just sit there and eat those potato chips. Get out. Go to the gym. That's why I go. And I'll sit there and kind of work things, and my speech is good. I'll work through things at the gym, and I'll talk to myself, and that's okay. That's what thinking is asking and answering questions. I just do it loudly sometimes. So speech, physiology, and the last one is focus, F. Whatever you focus on, you feel. That's a Tony Robbins-ism, but it's so true. You can sit and focus on all the negative things. I've been through a lot of negative things. I've been through some really hard moments. And I choose mostly, and I'm not always great at this, but I choose to focus on great things. I get to I choose to focus on a path that I want to take, rather than all the problems or the mistakes or the failures, because that's debilitating. When you focus on your failures, then all of a sudden your physiology becomes very weak. You're going to curl up on a couch and be depressed, or your speech is going to get really bad because all of a sudden you're going to start talking very negatively. We are our own worst critics, that is for sure. And I see this with my children. I see it in me. I've been there. And when I go there, I immediately stop and go, how's my SPF? Is my speech good? How's my physiology? Well, I'm curled up on a couch eating potato chips. I'm out. And then how is my focus? The other side to that, what I mentioned, the 3 crystal balls, that the SPF of direction that I just gave you means a lot. But the 3 crystal balls is also SPF, and that's your spirituality, your physical body, and then your family. Those 3 things have to remain solid. Now, I've struggled with going through a divorce, and my family crystal ball has cracked, and I'm trying to repair that. And I would say that if you're in that position like so many of us are, get back to what's important. My spirituality suffered for a while, and I finally had to come back to who I was and get firm on the fact that, yes, I'm still God's son and that the atonement applies to me. And I'm grateful for that. I know that. So my spirituality, my physical body, which is like the first P in the SPF, is so critical. You only have one body. You have to take care of yourself. You have a limited amount of time on this earth. So that's why it's a daily thing. I never miss a day at the gym because it's just not an option. It's so important. And I eat well for the most part. And then my family. I am a family man. Even though I'm divorced, I'm a family man. I love my children, and I am so grateful for that role as father. And so any parting words would be, keep your crystal balls in the air. Your spirituality, whatever that means to you, find it. Your physical body and your family. The one ball that's not there is money. I do well financially, but money is a bouncing ball. So if you're stressed out about that, remember, money is a bouncing ball. It comes back. Crystal balls drop and they break. So there it is.
It's powerful. You got a couple good reels in there, I can tell you right now.
Maybe.
Well, bottom line, guys, hope you enjoyed today's podcast with Jared Osmond. And I'm super excited that he was on today, and I can't wait for this thing to go out. I mean, this will be a life changer, and I think it'll help people understand a little more of who you are. And I think that's important because you may not say it and you say you don't care, but, I know that deep down you do. I care as well. I do like that when people look at me in a positive light. So I think this will help paint that and unfold a few of the onion layers behind Jared Osmond.
Well, and if people, I'm pretty self-confident. If people don't like me, I will lead with kindness. Whatever, don't like me. I really don't care. But I do have a very, very strong belief that if I can help somebody, then I'm in. If I can do something to raise people up, then that's why I came into this podcast. It is such a rewarding and empowering thing to take time to focus on even an individual, just a single person that may be struggling. And not that I'm some saint, because I'm not, but I love that feeling, and it is spiritually rewarding. And I love when my kids even ask me questions, or they have, they say, "Wow, Dad, thanks for the inspiration." Sometimes the inspiration came from a mistake that I made, but then I've made course corrections. And I hope that's kind of the path that all of us are on, is constantly course correcting. But anyway, glad to be here.
Well, I know I've been inspired, and I hope you have as well.
I have.
Jared, thank you again for coming on.
I love you, brother.
Love you, brother.
You're a good man.
Thank you guys for watching Power Players, and be sure to visit wearethepeople.org. Thank you again, and God bless you.